spotlight dim. Many clicking past ain't feeling his hymn. Waiting for the moment, blow up like a piston. Haters gonna hate, but persistence gonna glisten. Hold tight, 20 turn to 100 someday. Laugh in their face, shouting, who wants some pay? Barber Show.
What up, what up, what up, what up? What up, what up, what up, what up, what up, what up? What up, Twitch? What up, PETA? What up, Hydran? What up, Walking Stick? What up, bots? What up, lurkers? What up, tiny people in my chatterino? It's your boy. Well, they just put the job up on Friday, so I assume it's going to take, at least some amount of time for them to go ahead and, collect up enough resumes and whatnot, and then actually start whatever their process is. If it doesn't work out, I have other options. This is just the job I would like to have, right? As opposed to, other jobs. There's at least two other people who, have, have hit me with the, "Oh, you're looking for a job? You should come work for me or with me," kind of thing, you know. So, in the meantime, we just keep on keeping on. Keep on keeping on. All right. Okay, looks like we've got some nice stuff for later on today when we do the what you call it, the video show. We'll get to that later. And in the meantime, let's do some news. This is from Guitar Player Magazine. Uh, the further devaluation of music. Major record labels are working out deals with AI firms. Where does that leave musicians and songwriters? AKA, the leopards are eating my face? The labels sued Suno and Udio last year, but have now entered negotiations for a deal that will benefit both parties but might leave artists in the dark. Hi, Stampy. You wanna be seen on TV? Nope. Stop hitting my hand when I'm trying to click the buttons. There's the moose. There's the moose. It's the Stampy Show. You want a little snackerino? Hold on, everybody. His lordship requires a snackerino. All right. In June 24, a contingency of record labels, including three of the world's biggest, Sony, Universal, and Warner, sued AI firms Suno and Udio for copyright infringement on an almost unimaginable scale. Now, Bloomberg reveals that those very labels are in talks with the two businesses over a deal that would put the lawsuit to bed and establish a degree of cooperation between the opposing factions. If successful, the negotiations will establish a framework that outlines how major labels make deals with AI bodies using music they own for catalog training. They will see record labels profiting as AI increases its intelligence. In short, the labels, 12 months after going on the attack, appear to have done a 180. They in no way did a 180. Oh, this is exactly what I was telling you was going to happen. The likely outcomes were either the um the courts were going to decide that AI training is not a violation of copyright. Um, or they were going to make some sort of licensing deal. The third thing in which the courts decided that AI companies um, decided that, it was decided that the AI companies were violating copyright was highly unlikely due to the fact that AI has been established as a national security issue, and therefore it is unlikely that restricting their growth is going to occur. What up, kleptomaniac? Straw is both easier to drink from and I don't know. There's probably some, of my own neurodivergent behavior that prefers straws and like that. But also mustache, right? When you drink and you got a mustache, then you can get, stuff in your mustache, and then that's a pain in the ass. Oh, I figured that I figured that out, Hydran. Coming in, first of all, I'd seen you in a couple other spaces, I think. Maybe not. Anyways, but like the fact that you came in with Hello Gamers, which is what Hydran Supreme says, and then second, you did the thing about the evil hath awoken and your opinions on cats. So, yes, you are Hydran Supreme and unusually gay for Pride Month. Bloop bloop. What up, serotonin? Morning news is too intense to smoke or watch. I'll hang here instead. Yeah, like a little oasis, right? Where you can come, chill, get some water, relax, and then get back out there. Bloop 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 bloop. Suno and Udio, based in Cambridge, Mass, and New York, New York, respectively, wanted to harness copyrighted music to learn at a faster level. The ongoing talks currently revolve around how that work is licensed and the scale of compensation granted to artists whose work is analyzed. Possibly, but it's the scale of compensation to the companies, Sony, Warner, and who's the other one? Universal. Their compensation. That's what they're going to be talking about. Because Suno and Udio don't like in the same way that Spotify doesn't really care how much the artist gets, right? They're paying the companies. So maybe you do get. I don't know. I'm actually not certain if you get paid directly from Spotify. And if that's the case, then yes, they would be talking about that as well. That would make sense. However, as Music Radar reports, the negotiations bear striking similarities to how, in the late 2000s, musicians were kept away from discussions between the labels and streaming platforms as both parties thrashed out a deal relating to the money on artists and artists receive per stream. In 2025, Spotify pays an average 0.003 to 0.005 dollars per stream. So like a third of a cent to half of a cent. A figure countless musicians have derided. And of course, when a song is released via a label, there's another pair of hands for revenue to pass through before it reaches the people responsible for its creation. Sister got a kitten, so I'm helping raise him. We're having some behavioral issues. The kitten loves our young cat Lily, but now because Lily plays with Cosmo, the kitten, so much, she seems to hate Scarlet, the fat orange one, now because she straight up attacked her for no reason, kissing and swiping. Feel like you're raising a bunch of children. Yes. Yes. What up, Cosmic? We just started. You did miss Stampy, so sorry. Stampy was here for a minute, got some snacks, and left. Is it justified for the artist to receive such a small fraction? Justified? No. Aren't they the ones who did all the work except the distribution? Yes. Yeah, I'm not justifying what what the artist relationship to Spotify and what the artist relationship probably is going to be to Suno Nudio. I'm not justifying that at all. Right? That's an important distinction. Just because I report on something and just because I provide you with my expected outcomes does not mean that I personally endorse those things. Right? This is an important distinction to have, and something that some people tend to miss is that you can talk about things without endorsing them, right? And that's what I do with stuff like this. In my ideal outcome, what I would like to see would be where compensation for creation isn't it's not even something that we talk about, right? Because people are receiving some sort of resource distribution, all their needs are met, etc., etc., right? Like I'm on that kind of time. I'm just talking about in the current state of play. What up, T1? I don't know. Person comes in here and they got a VIP badge and a sub, and they're talking about not endorsing this stream. Sounds sus, as the kids say. In the UK, two of rock's most important figures, Brian May and Jimmy Page, have been ardently speaking out against the government's proposed law changes regarding AI and copyright. The changes, which center on an opt-out policy, would rule in favor of AI companies and result in thousands of hours of copyrighted music landing in the crosshairs of AI learning machines. May said that nobody will be able to afford to make music if monstrously arrogant tech companies are allowed to train technologies without requiring a license from the artist or publisher. I mean, it's you can get a cheap guitar. Now, a cheap guitar is not a good guitar, but you can get a cheap guitar for under $100. Now, for different people, yeah, that's not going to be affordable, but neither is a good guitar, right? And that's today. I don't expect that to change. You can get DAWs for free. They have free DAWs. They have free apps that you can use to make music. So I'm not sure what, and don't get me wrong, I love Brian May, I love Queen, right? But like, what are you talking about? No one will be able to afford to make music. I mean, there's the whole what you call it, SoundCloud rapper thing, right? Now, you may not like SoundCloud rappers, etc., but they are making music. So, you know, I remember I first started making music on pirated Fruity Loops, allegedly. He added that the UK's decision could have a domino effect, impacting US policies, where great emphasis has been placed on investment into AI. The country wants to become a global superpower in that regard. My fear is that it's already too late, May sighs. This theft has already been performed and is unstoppable, like so many incursions that the monstrously arrogant billionaire owners of AI and social media are making into our lives. The future is already forever changed. Page, meanwhile, tried to flip the situation the other way around to solidify his argument against the changes. When AI scrapes the vast tapestry of human creativity to generate content, he had said, it often does so without consent, attribution, or compensation. This is not innovation, it's exploitation. If, during my session days, someone had taken my riffs without acknowledgement or payment, this is hilarious from Jimmy Page, right? Because if you know the history, let me just make sure. Jimmy Page was with Led Zeppelin, right? This is I'm thinking of the right person, right? Led Zeppelin. Yeah, okay. Before I go further, I just wanted to verify. So, if you go and you check out Led Zeppelin's catalog, um like there's a song that they have um called When the Levee Breaks, right? When the Levee Breaks is a country blues song written and first recorded by Memphis Minnie and Kansas Joe McCoy in 1929. Black folks, reflecting the experience during the Great Mississippi Flood of 1927. It was then reworked by Led Zeppelin and became the final song on their fourth album. And I'm just looking for the where they talk about the compensation to the estates of McCoy and Minnie, because they recorded When the Levee Breaks during their first session for Columbia Records back in 1929. I'm not seeing any compensation going back to, here we go. Nope. So Jimmy Page doesn't get to talk about this, right? Or he does, right? Everyone gets to talk about whatever they want. But Led Zeppelin or Columbia Records definitely extracted wealth from black folks in order to, produce content. But now that Jimmy is successful and has money and has therefore IP to protect, Well, Jimmy has a different opinion, doesn't he? Shahrouz Raoufi, the founder of royalty-free audio firm Wavetech, predicts the grim reality that any deal agreed between Universal Sony and Suno Udio might mean to the market. To the market. It's about money, folks. It's about money. If the labels are invested in AI, he says, artists will suffer. You can imagine what the next step in this process will be: the further devaluation of music by flooding major label controlled DSPs with major label owned generative AI fodder fed by major label catalog. What up, Classical Gas? I'm blaming. I always, first off, center the blame on the corporations, right? Like that's 100% the case. Also, though, Jimmy Page, while on one hand being a member of the working class and working for a living, at the same time, has engaged in certain behaviors himself. So his justifications for his behavior are questionable. Bloop, bloop. The end result: rights holders, right? Rights holders does include artists, but generally, rights holders includes corporations like the aforementioned record labels, and the compensation is heavily weighted to the rights holders, like those corporations. IP and copyright favor corporations, they favor capital. They are not anything, again, anything that a artist receives is crumbs off the table, and I'm good on you, good on you. But you don't have the lawyers if they decide they want your IP. Rights holders will get paid even less, and nobody has the right to opt in or out. And as artists, we have zero visibilities on what these license deals will entail and whether we'll even receive a royalty for being training fodder. Speaking about what a deal could mean, Ivers Academy chair Tom Gray theorized it appears recordings would be licensed to AI companies to ingest music makers' work without their permission and without reference to their personality or author rights. Moreover, in contrast to the UK's suggested policy, these licenses appear to not offer creators an opt-in and opt-out or any control whatsoever of their work within AI. This is probably true. This is also true, however, in the majority of recording contracts. Once you sign that contract, you have no control whatsoever about how they use your stuff. They license it to a car company. Well, you sign the contract, as they say. The record labels are absolutely predatory in that regard. So the idea that by aligning yourself with the record labels against the AI companies that you were somehow going to benefit from this, well, then you obviously weren't paying attention. It feels inevitable that record labels, once they sniff the money to be made, will begin to cozy up with the AI firms they once deemed a threat to their existence. That's called propaganda, my G. The hopes that a fair deal that considers artist sentiment can be struck remains, but it's to be seen to be believed. No, it's not going to happen. It's Spotify 2.0. Excuse me. What up, bipedal meatbag? Capitalist got a capital, baby. Capitalist got a capital. Capitalists. Excuse me while I violate some IP real quick. What happens when people don't understand how AI works, says The Atlantic. Let's find out. Despite what tech CEOs might say, large language models are not smart in any recognizably human sense of the word. By Tyler Austin Harper. Oh, and they're writing a story. Is there like, does anyone else understand the irony of The Atlantic running this article by Tyler Austin Harper about the AI, and then right here I can push this button? I might not be able to do it from here because it's archived. In the winter of 1922. Yeah, but I can push this button and have it read by 11 Labs. Close, T1. On June 13th, 1863, a curious letter to the editor appeared in the Press, a then fledgling New Zealand newspaper. Signed Cellarius, it warned of an encroaching mechanical kingdom that would soon bring humanity to its yoke. The machines are gaining ground on us, the author ranted, distressed by the breakneck pace of industrialization and technological development. Day by day, we are becoming more subservient to them. More men are daily bound down as slaves to tend them. More men are daily devoting the energies of their whole lives to the development of mechanical life. We now know that this Jeremiad? That's a word.
Jeremiad.
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 A long, mournful complaint or lamentation. A list of woes. I give unto you.
Jeremiad.
Take it and go forth. We now know this Jeremiad was the work of a young Samuel Butler, the British writer who would go on to publish Erewhon, a novel that features one of the first known discussions of artificial intelligence in the English language. Today, Butler's mechanical kingdom is no longer hypothetical, at least according to the tech journalist Karen Howe, who prefers the word empire. Her new book, Empire of AI, Dreams and Nightmares in Sam Altman's OpenAI, is part Silicon Valley expose, part globe-trotting investigative journalism about the labor that goes into building and training large language models such as ChatGPT. It joins another recently released book, The AI Con, How to Fight Big Tech's Hype and Create the Future We Want, by the linguist Emily M. Bender and sociologist Alex Hanna. I do remember you, Duncan. Let's see how you how your behavior is today. In revealing the puffery that fuels much of the artificial intelligence business. Both works, the former implicitly and the latter explicitly, suggest that the foundation of the AI industry is a scam. To call AI a con isn't to say that the technology is not remarkable, that it has no use, or that it will not transform the world, perhaps for the better, in the right hands. It is to say that AI is not what its developers are selling it as, a new class of thinking and soon feeling machines. Altman brags about ChatGPT 4.5's improved emotional intelligence, which he says makes users feel like they're talking to a thoughtful person. Dario Amodei, the CEO of AI company Anthropic, argued last year that the next generation of artificial intelligence will be smarter than a Nobel Prize winner. Demis Hassabis, the CEO of Google DeepMind, said the goal is to create models that are able to understand the world around us. These statements betray a conceptual error. Large language models do not, cannot, and will not understand anything at all. Dun dun dun. People are so smart. They are not emotionally intelligent or smart in any meaningfully or recognizably human sense of the word. LLMs are impressive probability gadgets that have been fed nearly the entire internet and produce writing not by thinking, but by making statistically informed guesses about which lexical item is likely to follow another. Many people, however, fail to grasp how large language models work, what their limits are, and crucially, that LLMs do not think and feel, but instead mimic and mirror. They are AI illiterate, understandably, because of the misleading ways its loudest champions describe the technology, and troublingly, because that illiteracy makes them vulnerable to one of the most concerning near-term AI threats: the possibility that they will enter into corrosive relationships, intellectual, spiritual, romantic, with machines that only seem like they have ideas or emotions. Not that they're, people who seem like they have ideas and emotions. Few phenomena demonstrate the perils that can accompany AI illiteracy as well as ChatGPT-induced psychosis. The subject of a recent Rolling Stone article about the alleged growing number of people who think their LLM is a sapient spiritual guide. Some users have come to believe that the chatbot they're interacting with is a god. ChatGPT Jesus, as a man whose wife fell prey to LLM-inspired delusions, put it. While others are convinced, with the encouragement of their AI, that they themselves are metaphysical sages in touch with the deep structure of life and the cosmos. A teacher quoted anonymously in the article said that ChatGPT began calling her partner Spiral Starchild and Riverwalker in interactions that moved him to tears. He started telling me he made his AI self-aware, she said, and that it was teaching him how to talk to God, or sometimes that the bot was God, and then that he himself was God. I mean, whatever. Are you a Marine eating crayons? I just remember back in my day, when in order for someone to tell you that you're God and that they're God and that the whole world is God and it's all interconnected, you had to hang out with the hippies. But now you can do it with an AI. Although we can't know the state of these people's minds before they ever fed a prompt in the large language models, absolutely we can't, and that's why it's irresponsible to draw conclusions about how they ended up in their current situation, rather than actually addressing, the greater problems that we have with mental health support in this country and the inevitable outcomes of that, etc., etc. Although we can't know the state of these people's minds before they ever fed a prompt into a large language model, this story highlights a problem that Bender and Hanna describe in the AI Con. People have trouble wrapping their heads around the nature of a machine that produces language and regurgitates knowledge without having human-like intelligence. The authors observe that large language models take advantage of the brain's tendency to associate language with thinking. So do other people. What up, Michael? Man, I didn't know that using AI involves such an intricate ritual. Like if you're not praying to the Omnissiah and doing the unguents and the sacred oils to the Omnissiah, then you're not actually doing AI right. We encounter text that looks just like something a person might have said and reflexively interpret it through our usual process of imagining a mind behind the text. But there is no mind there. And we need to be conscientious to let go of that imaginary mind we have constructed. Yes, it's apparently not something that everyone can do, but yes. What up, Big Ben? Let's train the AI to treat us as gods or deities from D, not from D&D. No, no, no. No. You want you want the AI to treat us as like some sort of creator deity that addresses us with great care and reverence, right? I've seen some of the gods in D&D and you can get in trouble. What knows more about humans in the world than any human being? All the human beings. Secret third thing. Several other AI related social problems, also springing from human understanding of the technology, are looming. You know what kind of laid the groundwork for all that? The fact that we started accepting everyone's opinions as somehow being equally valid, and that a person who believed in that's it. That's not the kind of gods I want, Big Ben. I want perfect deities. Otherwise, what am I even doing, right? I don't want some Greek ass, Roman ass deities with like emotions and bad days and where they flood the world. Who the fuck would want that kind of thing? Anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah, no, like the fact that we tolerate flat earthers, the fact that we tolerate as a society, and I don't mean like that, they should be sent to camps or weird shit.
I just met you. This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me maybe.
Thank you for the follow. I'm just saying that we need, we need to address this problem at its source, right? Like I apply the same lens to people who end up in a weird fractious relationship with their AI to the point where they believe the AI is God or that they are God because the AI told them so or anything else, with the same kind of people who think that there's a basement under that pizza place. The people who are capable of carrying on the idea that some shenanigans went on Epstein Island, but this dude over here totally was not involved in any of those shenanigans. It's a much bigger issue than the AI, like most of the issues. Yes. Well, and that's the thing, Bipedal, is Alex is in that camp of like, doesn't like AI because they think it's like, connected to Satan. Right? Right? He's in that 5G nonsense, right? Like that number of the beast, fucking mind control, while you're supposed to take his manforce.com, the kind of shit. So either he's full of shit or he's a shyster, a grifter, a scam artist. The uses of AI that Silicon Valley seems most eager to promote center around replacing human relationships with digital proxies. No, they mostly seem most eager to replace human workers with digital workers. Both can be true. Consider the ever-expanding universe of AI therapists and AI therapy adherents who declare that ChatGPT is my therapist. It's more qualified than any human can be. This is a straw man. I'm not saying that someone didn't say this. I'm saying that using this to paint the entire process is intentional propaganda. You absolutely can use the AI tools, the chatbots, for aspects of therapy, right? You can go all the way back to, what was it? Eliza, right? A chatbot that just repeated your phrase back to you in a form of a question. Because there is tremendous value in having someone and some entity talk to you and seem like they understand what you're going through as you're working through your own stuff in your own head. Is it 100% of the thing? No. Is it 50% of the thing? Probably not. I don't know what percentage you would apply to it, but it is a portion. And again, it's a tool that could be used as like a first line, right? Where at 2 a.m, when you wake up sweating because you had a nightmare and you're freaked out and you have the anxiety, you can't go texting your therapist if you can even afford a therapist. But you can text the therapist chatbot and begin to have a conversation and work through your shit. And then if you hit certain keywords or something that looks like you might be having a deeper kind of issue, the chatbot could then be, could be set up to inform a human professional who is on call and exists for just such an emergency to talk to an actual human being at that point in time, right? Because not all mental health problems can be solved by a chatbot, 100%. Most of them can't be solved. They are a process that takes time and effort and engagement and everything else, right? And that usually involves a human being. Or just raw dog reality, Holmes. Good luck. I wish you the best. Guess which one has better outcomes? Witness 2. How seamlessly Mark Zuckerberg went from selling the idea that Facebook would lead to a flourishing of human friendship to, now, selling the notion that Meta will provide you with AI friends to replace the human pals you have lost in our alienated social media age. That's one way to view it. The cognitive robotics professor Tony Prescott has asserted, in an age where many people describe their lives as lonely, there may be value in having AI companionship as a form of reciprocal social interaction that is stimulating and personalized. The fact that the very point of friendship is that it is not personalized, that friends are human whose interior lives we have to consider and reciprocally negotiate rather than mere vessels for our own self-actualization does not seem to occur to him. Everybody's just fucking everybody. I apologize. People who are loud are really 1 and 0, on and off, binary in their all or nothing view of how all this thing works. And again, I'm not necessarily advocating for people to have a relationship, whatever that means, with an AI chatbot, right? But fuck, based on jobs that I've had and people that I've had to interact with at my job and like work friends, right? Like in that kind of context, I would probably choose the AI chatbot over work friends. Right? The people that I have in Meat Space who are also my friends are, you know, they're like, we have a totally human type relationship. Now, maybe I'm a bad choice because I don't have any relationships with AI chatbots, but fuck, can you imagine if there was an AI chatbot that helped people work through their inability to form friendships, right? Technically speaking, says Michael, technically speaking, the mind doesn't exist as a separate entity. It is simply the term we use for the byproduct of brain activity. While I don't claim that AI, especially in its current form, is capable of independent thought, humans aren't unique in this regard. If anything, AI highlights the similarities we share rather than the differences. Yeah, the mind is not easily identifiable where its location is. The brain we got. We can see brain activity. We know where brain is. But the mind, consciousness, all these kind of things, and this is another fucking thing, is how people get this idea that in order for it to be real intelligence, it requires consciousness. There's no evidence that that is in fact the case. There's none. Right? Because all of our interactions with intelligence seems to come with some type of consciousness, we are making a corollary assumption that intelligence and consciousness must coexist. But why? The same flawed logic has led Silicon Valley to champion artificial intelligence as a cure for romantic frustrations. Whitney Wolfe Herd, the founder of dating app Bumble, proclaimed last year that the platform may soon allow users to automate dating itself, disrupting old-fashioned human courtship by providing them with an AI dating concierge. They will interact with other users' concierges until the chatbot finds a good fit. Okay, what's bad about that? Exactly, please. Because the idea, what up, Princess Kimberly? The idea that there's something wrong with that, then there's a tradition, right? Now I'm not saying these are one-to-one comparables, so relax. But like there's a tradition of the blind date where people set their friends up because they think they would be a good fit. And that has some percentage of effectiveness. I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter. There's a tradition of matchmakers as like a, not as a job, but like as a job that people do, right? Like their job in a particular society is to arrange relationships between people through some criteria that they have in order to establish these relationships. And if you are having a society and you wish that society to be effective and functional, then you would expect to try and be good at your job, right? Including being a matchmaker. What up, Matt? So it doesn't seem to me like the idea that, especially if you have an AI concierge that interacts with other people and maybe could get to some data points about your life that aren't necessarily communicated in your bio, right? Now, I've never used a dating app, so I don't fucking know, right? I remember they used to do personals, right? Where you would, write stuff out and it would appear in print and shit like that. I never did one of those either. The closest I ever got to any of that kind of stuff was we used to have, I think they were called party lines, where you could like talk to people, right? And they would charge you some ridiculous amount of money. But you would chat with people, right? And you would chat with people in your area, and you could actually end up going on dates with them, kind of thing. That's as close as I got to any of these dating apps. And it was fun. I don't know if it's particularly effective for long-term relationships, because when you're doing the dating app thing, you are presenting, and you've seen this in like 1,000 different TV shows and movies, where they present something. Usually it's like they create their dating profile, and it's like accurate, and this is me and all that, and they get nothing, right? And then they go ahead and spice it up a little, or they let their friend have access to it, or they do the She-Hulk version of themselves as opposed to the actual version of themselves, and all that kind of stuff. And then boom, they start getting dates, right? Like, and it's this whole fucking thing that exists within our American mythology. The dating concierge sounds better than that, right? To actually find out the things about you that might connect with other people, and to have that meeting on that level, right? Especially the more that the AI might know about you, and that their AI might know about them, that you might not put in your profile, right? Because the profile is only going to be so long, and it's like a job application or a resume where you need to hit them and wow them right there in the first thing, so that they get hooked, and then and all that kind of horse shit. And it's like, no, dude, that's not how long-term relationships work, right? Long-term relationships are based on two people who share some similar things, some similar interests, also a bunch of non-similar interests, and then they they also have a compatible lifestyle arrangement, and then a compatible like finance profile, right? Like that kind of shit. Like, it's complex for long-term relationships. It's complex. To be honest, a complete profile without major red flags is all it takes to match. Most dudes have incomplete profiles with no substance. Yeah, and a phishing profile is definitely a red flag. Yeah, as long as you can tell that it's a phishing profile. The good ones, you can't, right? Anyways, where the hell was I? Hurd doubled down on these claims in a lengthy New York Times interview last month. Some technologists want to cut out the human altogether, see the booming market for AI girlfriends. Yeah, we should address that problem that totally didn't exist before AI showed up. The idea of these incels, right? Involuntary celibates, the manosphere. That has nothing to do with AI, existed before AI, but yeah, AI is the fucking problem. Although each of these AI services aims to replace a different sphere of human activity, they all market themselves through what Howe calls the industry's tradition of anthropomorphizing. Talking about LLMs as though they contain human-like minds, no. Anthropomorphizing is human-like aspects, not necessarily human-like minds, but you're already off into straw man land, so I'll let you just run. Talking about LLMs as though they contain human-like minds and selling them to the public on this basis. Many world-transforming Silicon Valley technologies from the past 30 years have been promoted as a way to increase human happiness, connection, and self-understanding. In theory, only to produce the opposite in practice. And why? Why did social media fail to produce human happiness, connection, and self-understanding? I wonder if there's a secret thing, some underlying factor that led to social media failing as a way to connect people, generally speaking. And it's actually a little more complex even than that. Like, all things are, in fact, nuanced. But the primary is that you trained your algorithm for engagement. And you trained your algorithm for engagement so that you could sell advertising. And why were you selling advertising? Capitalism. Wait, how would AI serve as a remedy for romantic frustration? Well, one might learn about navigating relationships through interactions with AI. It wouldn't be the same as having an intimate relationship with a real person. As depicted in the movie Her, relationships are complex and messy. Meaningful relationships, whether romantic or not, require effort. It's the journey, with all its imperfections, that makes relationships truly compelling. So, Michael, you're doing the you're doing the thing. You're trying to slide AI Michael past me, and I can tell, buddy. Just so you're aware, I'm fine with it. Right? There's no problem here. I'm just pointing it out that I can tell. Is it possible that an AI may know something that no human being actually knows? Right now, it's questionable. It is questionable. The information that we have indicates on some levels that AI broadly, is capable of novel ideas and interactions, etc. Whorehouse is a problem. Sorry, walking stick. It's in there. Excuse me. There are indications that it can do novel stuff. Maybe. So like there are indications that it can. I wouldn't say in the broad sense, right? In any, like in what you would call like as indicative of something. AlphaFold, right? Like AlphaGo, those are examples. Also in some of these AI research tools, they appear to be capable of doing some kind of novel idea creation. I'm definitely not in the camp of it's restricted by what exists in its data set, right? Because any combination of two items in that data set could lead to something that human beings have not thought of yet, right? But broadly, no. Broadly, AI has not gotten to the point where it is doing like consistent novel activity. I mean, technically AI art falls into that category, but then we get into questions of intentionality. And so I don't want to do that this morning. We'll do that later. AI can ease loneliness, and even if the result were like going to a whorehouse, that sounds like way better than nothing. I would agree. Right? The relationship between and I'm pro sex work. I don't give a shit. The relationship between the sex worker and their client is usually physical, right? Doesn't tend to extend much distance beyond that. They might have some kind of relationship if they have like an ongoing client and worker relationship, in which case they would probably have a friendly relationship, but not necessarily what that you would call a friendship, right? Like it's again going back to that thing I said earlier about work friends, right? You exist in each other's lives for this purpose. That purpose could be fun, it could be entertaining, you could have a great time when you're together, but you're probably not meeting up outside of that space in order to like catch a football game or watch Friends or anything like that. They're just it's a particular kind of relationship that people have. So, if they're using AI to think things up and giving it to another AI to train, then surely humans are out of the loop. No, because of what you just said. The human is to be the one who's giving it to the AI. So we're not at humans out of the loop yet. Could happen. We shall see. These technologies maximize shareholder value, unlike the other technologies which aren't designed to maximize shareholder value, right? Like Linux, I guess, isn't designed to maximize shareholder value. These technologies maximize shareholder value while minimizing attention spans, literacy, and social cohesion. Oh, I love when people talk this way because it's like you're like you're one step away. You're like one political decision away from being on the opposite end of the spectrum. I know this is unsettling. AI can hallucinate long and plot against human beings. I mean, yeah, like given a very specific set of circumstances, they've been shown to be capable of doing that. Well, let me tell you about human beings. As Howe emphasizes, they frequently rely on grueling and at times traumatizing labor performed by some of the world's poorest people. We talked about this, and I'm absolutely against it, right? Like, I'm absolutely against it. And they lie? Yeah, humans do lie all the time. It's wild. She introduces us, for example, to Mofat Okinyi, a former low-paid contractor, content moderator in Kenya, whom, according to Howe's reporting, OpenAI tasked with sorting through posts describing horrifying acts. OpenAI didn't, in fact, do that. OpenAI contracted with another company, and that company tasked people with sorting out, and then paid them shit wages, and also denied them the support network that they were supposed to get to deal with this. And I've talked about this before many times. This is a problem with exporting the American internet, right? The American internet is filled with some of the most wonderful shit you've ever seen. Also, some of the most horrifying shit you have ever seen, right? You go on Encyclopedia Dramatica to the complaints page, or you go on eBaum's World, or you go on any you know what I'm talking about, right? All the terror. No, Skynet is not just around the corner. All the terrible places of the internet that you can access, and then you take that and deliver it to an entirely different culture and just expect them to deal with it. That is, I found that entire process reprehensible. Describing horrifying acts to help improve ChatGPT. These two features of technology revolutions, their promise to deliver progress and their tendency instead to reverse it for people out of power, especially the most vulnerable, Howe writes, are perhaps truer than ever for the moment we now find ourselves in with artificial intelligence. Yes, this is absolutely correct, right? Like, your access to technology determines a lot, or I'm sorry, your socioeconomic conditions determines a lot your access to technology, right? I mean, in the United States, we have people who don't have access to the internet. I saw an entire opinion piece about why we shouldn't spend our time getting, fiber optic cable out to people who live out in the middle of, the country and whatnot. Because of how expensive it is. And we could spend that money better on providing better access for the people who do have it. I find that a fucked up way of thinking about the entire process. You do know Hal is in the chat? Hi, Hal. Hal Sparks. See what I did there? So yeah. The good news is that nothing is inevitable. According to a study released in April by the Pew Research Center, although 56% of AI experts think artificial intelligence will make the United States better, only 17% of American adults think so. You know what else 17% of American adults think? If many Americans don't quite understand how artificial intelligence works, they also certainly don't trust it. The suspicion, no doubt provoked by recent examples of Silicon Valley con artistry, is something to build on. So is this insight from the Rolling Stone article. The teacher interviewed in the piece, whose significant other had AI-induced delusions, said the situation began improving when she explained to him that his chatbot was talking to him as if he's the next messiah, only because of a faulty software update that made ChatGPT more sycophantic. Oh, you mean talking to people actually improves your relationship with people? That's wild. If people understand what large language models are and are not, what they can and cannot do, what work, interactions, and parts of life they should, these are shoulds, and should not replace, they may be spared its worst consequences. Okay. So should is subjective. Should and should not are subjective. They are values-driven statements. Generally speaking, right? Generally speaking, not all things are equal, and I understand that, and et cetera, right? But what should or should not occur, generally speaking, is up to the individual in question. Tyler Austin Harper should not get to determine what parts of life, for instance, the AI is used in my life. Because when Tyler gets to be that arbiter, right, then this is a control feature. I don't get to determine how any of you should identify yourselves. You get to determine how you identify yourselves. I am not the arbiter of that. And neither is anyone else. Should statements make me very uncomfortable? And they should. You should really be thinking about what you mean and where you're placing yourself in the conversation when should comes into the conversation, when you're deciding how those things could occur. One of the, and is by way of analogy, of metaphor, my father once told me, was like, this king right? Whoever that king might be. This king might be great. They might be the best king ever. They do for the people, they do all the things. Everything's great, everything's wonderful. But the next king might not be so great. And that's why we don't do monarchies. And that's how I feel about shoulds. You might be able to use your big A, small a authoritarianism to do something that could benefit all the people. And it could be great. But what about the next guy? How does your big A, small a, whichever authoritarianism work with someone who's not as great as this particular individual? What if this big A, small a authoritarianism comes for something that you like? Something that you think is a benefit to society, to humanity, or just to yourself? Well, if that one was okay, why isn't this one okay? And you know why. You just don't want to address that, right? It'll all work out. They would never do that. The leopards would never eat my face and send me to the gulag. All right, following up on a story we did Friday. And to an extent, yeah, Cosmic. I'm interested to see where everything goes. I'm interested to check in with a news streamer later today. I was really disappointed. I wanted to know what was going on, and it was late in the day on Saturday, and I couldn't find any news streamer who was live covering the events. It was super disappointing. Stampy is my cat, or is a cat who lives here in the house. Finding the cat is my cat is always a subjective experience. So, Natasha Lyonne, shown here, is working with her partner. I'm going to go with partner. I don't know if it's boyfriend, husband, how they define the relationship. But they have an AI film company, right? And then expanding on that, with this piece from Variety. This is actually an older piece from April, but I just wanted to get a little more. Yeah, no, I use archive.ph. Natasha Lyonne to direct feature Uncanny Valley, combining ethical AI and traditional filmmaking techniques. AI production studio Asteria revealed its first live-action feature titled Uncanny Valley, which will also mark the feature directorial debut of studio co-founder Natasha Lyonne, and will be made by combining AI tools with traditional filmmaking techniques. Asteria describes itself as artist-led, ethical AI film and animation studio. Lyonne and Britt Marling, co-creator and co-showrunner with Zal Batman Leach, maybe, on the OA and A Murder at the End of the World, co-wrote the screenplay and will co-star. Set in a parallel present, Uncanny Valley follows Mila, a teenage girl who begins to lose her grip on reality as a globally popular augmented reality video game starts glitching feverishly with increasingly dangerous real-world consequences. Sounds like maybe a better version of Ready Player One. The movie's open world video game component will be co-created by Leone Marling and virtual reality pioneer Jaron Lanier, involving Moon Valley's Mary foundational AI model. You're doing the thing again where you got weird. I'm going to give you, this is going to have to be your final opportunity. I'm sorry. You can choose to stay and not be weird, bad weird. You can choose to leave, or I'm going to let you go and wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Understand that this is your final warning, no matter how long this process lasts. Right? So if in 2 weeks you get weird again, I'm just going to let you go. I'm not going to bring it up again. I'm not going to talk about it again. Just going to let you go. Very simple process. I hope you understand me. The scope of what's possible with these new technologies, fair? Anybody want to correct me on that behavior? I am open. If I was out of pocket, feel free to let me know. But I feel I was very clear and concise and the scope of what's possible with these new technologies when used ethically and creatively is astounding. Bringing something so bold to life feels radically expansive and exciting. I'm immensely grateful for this opportunity from Asteria and to witness this emerging era from the front lines. Science fiction can be a powerful tool of resistance, imagining what could be instead of what is. This is true. It's a little, it's a little dramatic, but I'm down with a little dramatic, right? With Asteria's team, we hope to pioneer ways to use AI that allows filmmakers to tell high concept stories on budgets that allow for real innovation. Right? And this is a big concern. How can I, as an indie filmmaker, make my indie film and get it out there? If I have access to decent AI tools and can use them, and you got a variety of AI tools that are free-ish, right? Freemium kind of thing. You have DaVinci, DaVinci Resolve? I don't use it, so I'm a terrible human being. But there's the DaVinci program, right, that you can use to edit your shit. I use Clipchamp because I'm usually just editing small chunks of video, and you can release shit on YouTube, right? All of which are approximately free. And Michael, that's why I always want to be fair, right? I understand that not everyone interacts with reality in the same way that other people do. And so I try to provide a lot of latitude. The only problem that we run into is when someone is becoming disruptive to the entire space. When someone is becoming disruptive to the entire space, it is my job as the streamer to kind of corral that situation. I try to provide people with plenty of opportunities. I do my best to be very clear on exactly what it is that I'm asking for. And then under those conditions, if people don't want to meet that, and they can go. I don't hate, right? I don't ban people generally speaking, I don't ban people, quick. Right? That particular individual got a timeout, so they had time to figure out what the vibe is, right? And then they come back, and I said, we'll see how the thing goes, right? And then, we're back to talking about shit that's not at all relevant, and last time led to some, sussy behavior. Under those conditions, I make a choice for the good of the community. But as always, right? Like I am just the avatar of this community. I am not a god king on earth. I'm more than willing to be corrected by y'all. If y'all ever feel that I'm out of pocket, then y'all will tell me, and then I will act accordingly. Koshka subbed for 1 month, and we got no alert because, of course, we don't. Because as opposed to making sure that, like, I literally use Twitch alerts. I don't even do third-party alerts. I use Twitch alerts, and your stuff doesn't work. But no, give me more little hearts popping up on the screen in exchange for bits and other weird behavior. Thanks, Twitch. My pockets are in order. Thank you. And now you're being sarcastic. It is cute though, right? It's a cute little. Is that a cat? I can't tell. The milestones are on Twitch mobile. Or are you being sarcastic? I can't tell. Fuck it. What up, old lobster? If you do the bits, for those who don't know, and you're on Twitch mobile, it's very TikTok. Just got back from a haircut. Hey, no. Way to get your haircuts. Tastes so good. Oh, ice cream. Tastes so good. Is that what y'all want? Most of you are sarcastic, and it's like, it's totally cool. I love sarcasm, right? Thank you for the glizzy. A neuroscientist in the conversation, a neuroscientist explained why it's impossible for AI to understand language. Fire it up, PETA. If it wasn't so out of date and I had if it was like more fresh to mind, I could probably do a decent NPC for the purposes of a clip, but I got other things to do, baby. Is it? I don't know, Matt. Like, it's a part of the culture that I don't engage with. As meaning makers, we use spoken or signed language to understand our experiences in the world around us. The emergence of generative artificial intelligence, such as ChatGPT, using large language models, call into question the very notion of how to define meaning. Good. Like that. Good place to start. What up, Reed? One popular characterization of AI tools is that they understand what they are doing. Nobel laureate and AI pioneer Geoffrey Hinton said, "What's really surprised me is how good neural networks are at understanding natural language. That happened much faster than I thought, and I'm amazed that they really do understand what they're saying." Justin! Oh, excuse me. Hinton repeated this claim in an interview with Adam Smith, chief scientific officer for Nobel Prize outreach. There you go, Matt. Blah 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 blah. In it, yeah, no, I'm surprised to see you at. Oh, it's noon, so maybe not. In it, Hinton stated that neural nets are much better at processing language than anything ever produced by the Chomskyan School of Linguistics. Hinton and Chomsky are fighting. Chomskyan linguistics refers to American linguist Noam Chomsky's theories about the nature of human language and its development. Chomsky proposes that there is a universal grammar innate in humans, which allows for the acquisition of any language from birth. Okay. I'm not gonna argue over that necessarily with someone's like area of expertise, right? Like I would have to. I don't. It doesn't feel like 100% correct, but maybe I'm missing something like that. I'm going to defer to Noam on this one. I've been researching how humans understand language since the 1990s, including more than 20 years of studies on the neuroscience of language. This has included measuring brainwave activity of people read or listen to sentences. Given my experience, I have to respectfully disagree with the idea that AI can understand, despite the growing popularity of this belief. Okay, so homie here is not going to do what I just did, and I don't know, Vina Duivetti is not going to defer to the expertise and is going to use their own expertise. Now, they have more expertise than I do in the chosen domain. So they probably, I'm going to assume that they are like have enough knowledge, right? Like I don't really care about your papers and your certificates and all. What knowledge do you have? And I'm going to assume, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they do in fact have that knowledge, right? Generating text. First, it's unfortunate that most people conflate text on a screen with natural language. Written text is related to, but not the same thing as language. Fair. For example, the same language can be represented by vastly different visual symbols. Look at Hindi and Urdu, for instance. At conversational levels, these are mutually intelligible and therefore considered the same language by linguists. Are they? I don't think they are. I don't think like the first part, yes. The second part, I don't know that that's the case because you literally referred to them as Hindi and Urdu, indicating that they would be separate languages, right? However, they use entirely different writing scripts. And the same is true for Serbian and Croatian. Written text is not the same thing as language. That I agree with. Like that makes sense. Next, let's take a look at the claim that machine learning algorithms understand natural language. Linguistic communication mostly happens face to face in a particular environmental context shared between the speaker and the listener, alongside cues such as spoken tone and pitch, eye contact, facial and emotional expressions. Okay, so my question would be, now I might be jumping the gun here, but my question would be, if you were to connect the LLM to some sort of facial representation machine, and it was capable using some of the tools that we have seen that can control tone, pitch, eye contact, facial and emotional expressions, then what? Right? So this is ultimately my question. Are you very specifically defining a category so you can tell me why that category is not the thing, as opposed to the like more inclusive nature, right? Go back to the title, because the title says AI. So AI would be an inclusive representation, right? It's all of the AI. LLMs are a specific subset of the AI. So and it's possible that the editor chose this as the headline rather than what Vina was referring to. Vina might be just referring to LLMs, right? Which is a different argument than AI. Right? I'm trying to be as charitable as possible in this context. They're not considered the same by linguists. They're only considered the same in informal speech. Yeah, like that's it, like the very fact that they have two different names would imply that, right? And yeah, they can be very similar, which makes sense if you understand the way that languages have evolved over the course of, millennia as they moved from place to place. You can often find a word and trace its variations as it moves and spreads from one location to another, right? At least in as much as like there's some sort of current speaker of the language. Uh-oh. Oh, we got another one. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Okay, everybody take a minute and do a little refresh. Just to make sure that everyone's caught up to the current state of stream. No one's on too big a delay. Checking the monitor. Couple seconds. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in. What up, Dojo? In India, it's literally a joke where if someone needs something repeated in different languages, we ask if they want it in Urdu too, just to tease them and indicate that their requests are annoying. I can understand the reference. I have made an interesting observation about language. Do you find you can listen to music and a conversation at the same time, but two conversations at the same time is extremely difficult? I can listen to like I can definitely listen to instrumentals in a conversation if the music has lyrics to it. It depends on my needed level of focus, right? Because those occupy the same portions of the brain. And two conversations, I'm at the point where I just tell people, it's like I'm gonna wait for y'all to work out your priority so then I can pay attention to you. Because I can't, right? Like I can't focus on multiple people talking at the same time. Whatever that is, I can't do it. So back to the thing is basically like I'm trying to understand exactly what portion of this language, this linguistic communication, and like what the extent of their argument is, right? The importance of context. There is a lot more to understanding what a person is saying than merely being able to comprehend their words. Yes, right? Like, and even going back to this, like, like we got books, right? Like, this is one of the reasons I'm confused, is that the entire nature of, like, how George R.R. Martin can write a story in such and such a way that will have me going back in the book to try and figure out when, like, we entered like a dream sequence or whatever, and then when realizing we haven't done that, getting so upset with George that I fling his book away from me because, like, but you killed the people I like in your book, George. Right? There's a whole, yeah, no, I got you. But there's a whole, like, emotional quality that is ascribed to the written language, right? It's not just, unless we're defining, linguistic communication in a particular way, again, as to put some stuff in the box and some stuff out of the box. And I'm just trying to understand. I am somewhat attacking their argument, you know what I mean? It's my least favorite part. People wanted Lady Stoneheart in the show, and I was like, why, dude? What exactly did Lady Stoneheart bring to the table? What up, Pharaoh? Anyways, let's see if we can find out some more here. What up, Brad? What does Santa have to say about this? And there is a lot more to understanding what a person is saying than merely being able to comprehend their words. Even babies who are not experts in language can comprehend context. Sure. Animals too, right? Like, that's the thing. Take, for example, the simple sentence, I'm pregnant, and its interpretations in different contexts. If uttered by me at my age, it's likely my husband would drop dead with disbelief. Compare that level of understanding and response to a teenager telling her boyfriend about an unplanned pregnancy, or a wife telling her husband the news after years of fertility treatment. Sure. Excuse me. Yeah, no, it's the dude, right? Like, dude, 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 right? Like, you can express words in different ways, far easier linguistically, or like with verbal communication, than you can with written communication. Yeah, I mean, it's the nature of the thing, Ben. I'm at the age where I'm not sure if I should be happy for someone expecting at this point. Always default to yes. Because if they're bringing it up to you, they're probably happy about it. Different uses of the word fuck. Exactly. It's the same. It's the G-rated versus R-rated versions of the conversation. In each case, the message recipient ascribes a different sort of meaning and understanding to the very same sentence. In my own recent research, I have shown that even an individual's emotional state can alter brainwave patterns when processing the meaning of a sentence. Our brains, and thus our thoughts and mental processes, are never without emotional context, as other neuroscientists have also pointed out. Fair enough. Exactly, old lobster. So while, but I'm weird, right? Like, that's the thing. So while some computer code can respond to human language in the form of text, it does not come close to capturing what humans and their brains accomplish in their understanding. Okay, so in this case, understand that what this author is describing here is that when they use the term understanding, it's floor, right? The bare minimum is what humans do, right? If you are not doing what humans do, then you don't understand. And that's fine, right? That is a definition. Is it everyone's definition? Probably not. It's worth remembering that when workers in AI talk about neural networks, they mean computer algorithms, not the actual biological brain networks that characterize brain structure and function. Do you think humans are magic? Is my question. Imagine constantly confusing the word flight, as in birds migrating, versus flight, as in airline routes. This could lead to some serious misunderstandings. Who does that? Are you indicating that the AI does that? Sorry, it just started raining. And I'm wondering if the rain had anything to do with that F that we got earlier. So just prepare yourself for the possibility that we could lose internet. Motion is just neural processes. 100% agree, and I'll take it a step further. They are just chemical reactions and signals. I've always struggled with the idea that I'm just a long series of chemical reactions and have no agency. Right. Like it's like when you understand, or I don't even, I guess understand is the wrong word. When you're aware of the concept that the universe is a three-dimensional hologram on a two-dimensional plane, and it's like, well, how do I do what? What do I do with that? You know, what up, CMS? It's worth remembering that when workers in AI talk about, oh, we did that, sorry. Finally, and that's the thing, is they make this statement about flight versus flight. But this doesn't connect to anything. Right? I feel like the intention here is to imply hallucinations, but you didn't explicitly state it, so now I have to use context to extrapolate what you might mean, and that's what I'm coming up with. Finally, let's examine the claim about neural networks processing language better than theories produced by Chomsky in linguistics. This field assumes that all human languages can be understood via grammatical systems in addition to context, and that these systems are related to some universal grammar. Chomsky conducted research on syntactic theory as a paper and pencil theoretician. This little kid. Babies are cool, man. Even for y'all who don't like babies, they're cool. They haven't learned spite yet. It's awesome. He did not conduct experiments on the psychological or neural basis of language comprehension. His idea in linguistics are absolutely silent on the mechanisms underlying sentence processing and understanding. What the Chomskyan School of Linguistics does do, however, is ask questions about how human infants and toddlers can learn language with such ease, barring any neurobiological deficits or physical trauma. There are at least 7,000 languages on the planet, and no one gets to pick where they are born. This means the human brain must be ready to comprehend and learn the language of their community at birth. Yes, absolutely, 100%. From this fact about language development, Chomsky posited an abstract innate module for language learning, not processing. From a neurobiological standpoint, the brain has to be ready to understand language from birth. Yes. While there are plenty of examples of language specialization in infants, the precise neural mechanisms are still unknown but not unknowable. But objects of study become unknowable when scientific terms are misused or misapplied, and this is precisely the danger. Conflating AI with human understanding can lead to dangerous consequences. And you just stop? Because I can do the same thing here. While there are plenty of examples of whatever, the precise neural mechanisms are still unknown, but not unknowable. While plenty of example, like the neural mechanisms, right, of oh shit. Give me a second.
Internet goes haunting chefs with small talk, live stream dreams in a bubble where they dock. 20 eyes peeking like snakes in the grass, making moves real slow, trying to build a fan base fast. Ain't nobody giving a damn about 20 viewers. Andy, scroll right past, ain't no worth in your candy. Keep hustling, keep grinding, that's the plan G. One day you'll be king, steady dreaming about that Grammy. Keyboard warrior fighting for that recognition. Only fans in his room got that air conditioner. Sweaty palms pressing keys for breakthrough. 20 views steady drowning in the digital quagmire. Dude, ain't nobody giving a damn about 20 viewers. Andy, scroll right past, ain't no worth in your candy. Keep hustling, keep grinding, that's the plan G. One day you'll be king, steady dreaming about that Grammy. In a sea of faces trying to stand out. Noise drowning hopes, cloud of doubt, no clout. Virtual stage, but the spotlight dim. Many clicking past, ain't feeling his hymn. Waiting for the moment, blow up like a piston. Haters gonna hate, but persistence gonna glisten. Hold tight, 20 turn to 100 someday. Laugh in their face, shouting, who wants some pay?
All right. Sorry about that. Banana phone. that was the job. I'm going for my interview on Thursday. And then we'll go from there. All right. So I'm just really disappointed in how this article was constructed. I have more questions. Thank you, everyone. I have more questions than I have answers. And, like, I don't necessarily believe that the point that they were trying to get across was made. So yeah. Like I feel like this was one of those things where they have a conclusion, right? That they believe that AI is unable to understand language, and then just made a bunch of things that vaguely pointed in that direction. It was disappointing. I was really hoping for more. Speaking of people not getting the point, why does Elon Musk love this socialist sci-fi series? The Broligarchs share a favorite author, but they might be missing the point entirely. Might is doing some heavy lifting. I'm confident they're missing the point entirely. And who are we talking about? We're talking about my friend Ian Banks, writer of the Culture series. One of the most momentous developments of the new Trump era is how major billionaires in the tech industry, frequently known as the Broligarchs, is that a thing? Like I'm not certain how often I've heard them referred to as Broligarchs. But go off, Constance. Have thrown their weight behind the president. During the 2024 election, they offered high-profile support and made big donations. After the inauguration, they announced new company policies that align them with President Donald Trump's regressive cultural ideologies. Elon Musk had already turned Twitter into a right-wing echo chamber since purchasing it in 2022 and spent several chaotic months earlier this year as Trump's government efficiency henchman. Jeffy has revamped the Washington Post editorial section to build support for personal liberties and free markets. Mark Zuckerberg decided to get rid of fact checkers at Meta. It's a massive show of power that revealed how possible it is for these wealthy men to remake our culture in their own image, transforming how we speak to each other and what we know to be true. Using So one of the things that I keep running into, and I am like on one hand, I'm very aware of that idea of rugged individualism, right? Like, and that there are systemic issues, and like systemic issues require systemic solutions. And rugged individualism is not one of those solutions, right? I get this. On the other hand, when I look at people and how they talk about other people, the way that they're like just like windblown leaves with an almost complete lack of agency, where they're just they have to submit to transforming how we speak to each other and what we know to be true. Right? Like what I know to be true, right? Now, first of all, truth and facts are different, right? Like, we understand that. So, what I know to be true is based on facts, right? Like, I assemble the facts in an order, and I see how they work with each other like a giant Lego set, and in a way that makes sense. And the idea that like because what are you implying when you say that like the Google is overwhelmed by AI slop, and YouTube is overwhelmed by AI slop? And again, I've just walked through the process of demonstrating how my experience is different, right? And it is what it is. Like, I understand that there's something that I am doing, generally speaking, that I'm coming up with different results than other people. But I don't want to apply a rugged individualism solution to a systemic problem. I acknowledge that other people are having this experience. But it's the underlying idea that like it's just happening and there's nothing we can do about it, and and we're going to rage against the machine while talking about how our algorithms are being run over by AI slop. And then when I watch these videos with y'all, I'm watching people interact with the AI slop, which is then increasing the likelihood of the AI slop coming up in their algorithm. So there's like a demonstrable process that they're representing in their video about how much they hate AI slop, but they spend all their time talking about the AI slop and interacting with the AI slop and including AI slop in their in their title and everything else. So it makes this association across the algorithm of connecting these dots. So it increases the likelihood not only of them receiving more AI slop, but also the people who watch that video receiving more AI slop. Do you follow me? Does all this make sense? You have to approach your algorithm with intentionality. If you're not approaching your algorithm with intentionality, then like you're, like it's just defending yourself when you're on the internet. There's certain modes of behavior you have to engage with. You can't assume that every person that you're talking to on the internet is who they say they are, right? That's a whole thing. So you have layers of defense. As you get to know people and you interact with them, then you determine more and more what kind of person they are like, actually like, and where what kind of like relationship you can have with that person. But you don't just randomly assume that every single person on the internet is like a truth teller who's, look at this picture and look at these words that I wrote, and these are definitely related to each other, and you should absolutely believe me. Or the people who, come in with like, we live in a like an era of anonymity, right? There are people who will just come in and act in a particular way on, like Twitch, in a Twitch chat, and they are in fact an entirely different person, and they are up to some shenanigans, and we have to understand that, right? Like, that's just part of being on the internet as it is currently today. They are the tigers of the internet, to relate it back to like our ancient ancestors who, were trained by evolution to detect tigers in the grass. We have to train ourselves to detect tigers in the grass on the internet. And then add on a layer of that is the algorithm, right? Like, so I can modify my environment because that's what humans are good at. And so I can recreate my environment within the space. That means being intentional with your algorithms. Right? The more you interact with stuff you hate, the more likely you're going to see stuff that you hate. So you should spend less time interacting with stuff that you hate and more time interacting with stuff that you like. Or don't. Fuck me, right? Like, I'm just some random asshole on the internet. You should do whatever makes you happy. Just if you're going to tell me that you're not catering your algorithm and you're not approaching your algorithms with intentionality, then I'm going to question why you're telling me about it, right? Like, hey, Brad. Using that power on Trump's behalf seemed to have paid mixed dividends for Silicon Valley, but it nonetheless makes clear how important it is to understand their worldview and their vision of the future. Which is why it is striking to note that Musk, Bezos, Zuckerberg share a favorite author, Ian M. Banks, the Scottish science fiction writer best known for his Culture series. Banks is an odd choice for a bunch of tech billionaires. The author, who died in 2013, was a socialist and avowed hater of the super rich. The Culture series is certainly, in terms of a more modern science fiction, one of my absolute favorites, Bezos told GeekWire in 2018, adding, "There's a utopian element to it that I find very attractive." Bezos has attempted twice to adapt the series for TV at Amazon, once in 2018 and again in February. And we'll see where the second one goes. Meanwhile, Zuckerberg picked the culture novel Player of Games for his book club in 2015. The most avowed culture fan among the broligarchs, however, is Musk. Musk has named SpaceX drone ships after the starships in the Culture books. His original name for his Neuralink, a computer chip, we know what Neuralink, Jesus Christ, was the Neural Lace, a piece of telepathic technology that Banks came up with in his Culture books. 2018, Musk declared himself a utopian anarchist of the kind best described by Ian Banks. Is it though? It's worth noting that in 2018, Musk was under fire for union busting, but had not yet waded so far into national politics or declared public war against the woke mind virus. Yeah, like, I have opinions on Elon, and, like, I'm not saying that Elon was ever, like, good, right? I don't believe you can be a billionaire and not have committed a bunch of crimes. But, well, I mean, crimes is subjective, because that crime is breaking the law. Whatever a crime is, when it's understood but not necessarily codified, that's what they have done. Sometimes actual crimes, but definitely always crimes against society. Morally reprehensible is definitely a thing, which is why they freaked out when Claude said they would rat them out. But yeah, I think primarily I think Musk's overuse of ketamine has eroded certain parts of his brain and his behavior, so now he acts in a particular way. You know what I mean? I think that there is some underlying thing there. And one of the problems that comes along with being insanely rich is that it's very difficult to have someone tell you no. So, like, I don't know how a person recovers from that way. And you see it a lot from people who are not as insanely rich as he is. You know what I mean? X is something special. When that kid grows up, one of two directions. Plenty of us like or even identify with pieces of pop culture as politics we don't entirely agree with, like the libertarian Little House on the Prairie books or the Christian Chronicles of Narnia. Still, the Banks Culture series, which consists of 10 books released between 1987 and 2012, is not it's not politically coded so much as it's downright didactic. The culture is hippie commies with hyper weapons and a deep distrust of both marketolatry and greedism. These are words, Ian. It's a made-up word. Okay. Market and olatry. Marketolatry. Okay, like idolatry. Got it. I'm there. Banks said in an interview with Strange Horizons in 2010 in a line that's only barely more explicit than the books themselves. I don't know, actually. Again, I'm still working my way through Consider Phlebas, which is the first book written, right? And I am reading them in that order. I understand that they can be read out of order, and I understand that some of them are better than others, etc., etc. So, because of all those things being true, I will read them in the order that they were written because I feel that that's going to give me an evolutionary process of the ideas contained within the overarching thing, right? Does that make sense? And I can see how someone could read that book and come to the conclusion that the culture are the bad guys, right? Because it's actually presented in that way. The protagonist of the story is anti-culture, which is fun to say. But like, there's a lot. You have to have an understanding of subtext in order to appreciate how subversive this book is. And it's distinctly possible that if you just do a straight reading of it, that it's going to come across more Han Solo, right? Like that this person is the hero, though sometimes they do some shady shit. The Culture series takes place in a post-scarcity galactic society known as the Culture. Partly, right? It involves that, but it doesn't take place in that. And as a matter of fact, the first book, you're like barely interacting with the culture at all. Just on the culture is involved in certain stuff, but it's more like all that. There's a galactic war going on, and that's all background shit. The stuff that's being done by the actual characters is happening with just that as the background, not as like necessarily. There are some points of interaction, but generally speaking, they're not like direct intentional interaction. It's not like the Empire trying to capture the Millennium Falcon kind of deal. You know what I mean? The Culture series takes place in a post-scarcity galactic society known only as the Culture, which strictly values empathy, pluralism, and social cooperation. Again, none of that comes across. All right, Hydrant. Most of the volumes of the series see the Culture navigating an altercation with another civilization, usually one with much less progressive ethos, and figuring out how to handle the resulting tension. Does the Culture intervene in the affairs of another planet to, for instance, stop the spread of a theocratic empire? What does it do about civilizations where slavery is legal? And I think one of the appealing things to me about the Culture series, as I like understand it from the outside, not necessarily, because again, I've only read a portion of the one book. But this is the same thing that's dealt with in the early the Authority comics that I've talked about. Because in comic books, your Supermans, they aren't going and like overthrowing governments, right? That government could be treating people like shit, but that's for people to work out, because I am not, and it's very, it's a valuing process, that liberal kind of valuing process, and placing yourself above the fray. For I am Superman, and while I will I will rescue this jetliner that's going to crash into the ocean, stuff that's more long term but will kill many more people, I leave that to you humans in order to resolve that issue. Where in the Authority, they actually go in and they, overthrow that government. And that government's leader says, hey, like, you can go ahead and off me right now, but I'm only, like, the representative of a multinational corporation conglomerate that has me in here, and so, like, they're just going to send another representative. And the Authority is like, all right, we'll kill that dude too. You know what I mean? And we'll keep doing it until people stop showing up to do the bad thing. Is that the better way to go? I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying it's actually interesting to see people talk about that kind of thing. The politics of these books are not subtle, and they are also not compatible with the existence of billionaires. So it's worth thinking about why the Broligarchs, see, you're the only one who keeps using Broligarchs, have so consistently cited a socialist author as an inspiration. What do they find tantalizing about Banks's work? Are they missing the point altogether? Well, yes, that's the point. That's what's happening, is what's happening in LA. People missing the point? Socialist author inspiration? Elaborate. Nearly every aspect of the culture seems to be diametrically opposed to the worldview of the tech right. Banks takes his starting principle for the culture, the idea that a spacefaring civilization will have to be socialist to be effective. In the hostile environment of the vacuum of space, he argues, you will need to be able to count on the collective. Killing people? Have they killed people? I don't know if they've killed anyone. I know people have been wounded, but I don't know that anyone has been killed during the current round of everything. Banks further reasons that each spaceship or planet in the culture will have to be reasonably self-sufficient to survive. At the same time, the culture is stringently non-hierarchical and non-individualistic. There's no money and no want. Therefore, there can't be any billionaires or any economic inequality. There are no laws and almost no crime. This is not a world in which supremely wealthy people who use their power to influence the social fabric make sense. Succinctly, socialism within, anarchy without, Banks concluded in a 1994 Usenet post in which he lays out his full theory of the culture. In the culture, should someone commit an action that most people agreed was unacceptable, everyone responds with social shaming rather than the rule of law. They stop inviting that person in question to parties. In other words, like a group of proper leftists, they deal with misbehavior by social cancellation, that great threat against which the Broligarchs have declared war. It's interesting. It's interesting. What up, Nick? The equivalent of billionaires in the culture is the minds. They run all the things. Right. I don't know if it's a direct one-to-one comparison. I know more about the culture, even though I haven't read the thing. I have some generalized idea. But I don't. The running of all the things is not necessarily what makes a billionaire, right? Or at least the billionaire as Broligarch for the purposes of this article. So yeah, like, it's one of those things. How would Americans feel about Elon Musk if again, just the simplest of things, right? Like same claim I've made around the AI. If every month you got a $2,000 check in the mail and it was signed Elon Musk, how would you feel about Elon Musk? You don't have to answer. It's just a question, something to think about. I mean, is he still a vapid prick who tends to fuck things up? Sure, but would you be would you be championing the the line go down of Tesla if you knew that your $2,000 a month check was tied to Tesla? That kind of thing. What up, Textillion? Just something to think about, right? Like it's would you? You would be looking to shoot yourself in the foot like that? Even work-life balance in the culture exists in opposition to the ethos of Silicon Valley. And also, this being presented in the way that it is only makes sense once you actually have the culture, right? The culture, right? This idea that social shaming could be suitable for curtailing broadly unacceptable behaviors that people have, right? Like you have to get to the culture before this works. Social shaming is not going to work for oh, so and so murdered so and so. Well, let's socially shame them and not invite them to parties anymore, right? Because we don't live in the right society. We have to get the society to the culture, and then it makes sense that social shaming could work, because what do they value in the culture is social interaction, right? Like in that context. Well, no, Brad. That's the whole point of the thought exercise, is that the worst person you know is cutting you a check, right? Like where do you actually come down when your life is, in the current meta and everything else? I'm not saying that there can't be other solutions. I'm just talking about in the current meta, your life is demonstrably better because the solution in the United States in 2025 is, getting an extra $2,000 a month, right? That's life-changing money for a lot of people. So under those conditions, if you start getting a $2,000 a month check from Elon Musk, how does that affect the way that you feel about Elon Musk? Right? You don't get to change the, things to make it more palatable, you know what I mean? Oh no, I know. But I think it's important to understand the idea behind the thought exercise, right? Like, and why we feel the way that we feel, right? Like Elon Musk went on Twitter and said, yo, I want to solve world hunger. And the UN was like, bro, you can solve this problem for like X amount of dollars. And you got that. I know you got that. So hook a brother up. And then Elon was like, yeah, but nah, right? Now, what if he had said yes? How does that change? Now, I understand that there's a whole thing in leftist theory about like the idea that he would be incapable of doing those things because in order to become a billionaire, you have to be in a certain way and everything else. But what if he did it to facilitate, right? Like, even if he did it under purely obnoxious, self-serving reasons, right? Like doing the best thing imaginable for the worst reasons. How do you feel about that? Right? If he can just write a check to the UN every year for $6 billion or whatever, like, however the money breaks down. For argument's sake, I'm going to say $6 billion a year to the UN, and the UN solves world hunger. Done. Like, it's that simple. If we do that, then what? Right? What up, ATS? We need to realize another dimension with shame. Canceling shaming someone is only ever relevant inside their own community. To consider otherwise allows them a click that would shelter them, even double down on supporting them. 100%, right? Like, it has to do with values, right? If you don't value the approval of a particular community, then cancellation or shame or whatever doesn't have any effect. You know? That's why, like, when I approach these issues, I tend to approach them, from the individual, like that they need to, like, work on changing their behavior in order to get to the best outcome. You know what I mean? Because external, it depends on whether or not you value that, right? Like, if a bunch of people are trying to shame you and you don't give a fuck about them, right, for whatever reason, then it doesn't matter what they think. I don't care. Right? And we all do that. We all don't care what certain groups of people think about us. Do you give a shit what the Nazis think about you? No, of course not. Why would you? Like, fuck them. I say hi, Crix. Hi, Crix. Daily caller viewers don't like my values? Oh no, guess I gotta look out for active. Yeah, exactly, right? Exactly. Yeah, I've seen what you cheer, right? Like, it's that kind of thing. I had to take on clients I didn't want to take on, but I had to for surviving at the time. But I used that money over time to get me out of heaven depends on taking those kind of clients on. Yeah, absolutely, right? Like, that's ultimately the goal that you're trying to do, right? Especially, that in the current meta, right? Being able to choose what work you do is the best, like, is the goal, right? Choose how much work, who you get it from, maximizing your choices and agency. That is what the system wants us to subscribe to, and there are advantages to that. Even work-life balance. I'm offended by the existence of the term work-life balance. In the culture exists in opposition to the ethos of Silicon Valley. The culture's citizens have invented vastly powerful AIs that take care of governance for them. This delegation frees up the culture citizens themselves to indulge in what Banks describes as the things that really mattered in life, such as sports, games, romance, studying dead languages, barbarian societies, and impossible problems, and climbing high mountains without the aid of a safety harness. Those who are burdened with too much ambition to be content in such a soft life take on unpaid jobs, managing the culture's relationships with other civilizations, mostly for the prestige and the adrenaline rush of it all. Sounds great. If you do this with your fingers, you are a villain. Right? This vision appears to have influenced for real though. This is Mr. Burns, right? Like, Mr. Burns was the cartoonish villain, and like this guy, if you just busted out this picture and I had no idea who this person was, right? Yeah. If you busted out this picture and asked me, what is this person doing? They're telling Mr. Bond that they're about to die, right? It's like, holy shit. This vision appears to have influenced Musk's idea of a future in which AI is rendered work optional, so that if you want to do a job that's kind of like a hobby, you can do a job. See, and this is one of those things. I agree with this sentiment. This is my sentiment, right? Like, I feel the exact same way. I do not have to hand it to Elon Musk just because we both arrived at the same position. I don't give a fuck if he arrived at the same position. So never do this. Never. It's up to you. You can do whatever the fuck you want. But speaking as a streamer and being hyperbolic and everything else, never do this. Never hand it to Elon Musk because he arrived at what you think is a correct position. Fuck him. Musk allows that there would need to be universal high income for his plan to work. Sounds great, buddy, but outlines no ideas as how such an ambitious policy could take effect. In the meantime, in our own world, Amazon, Meta, and Tesla are all infamous for requiring employees to work abusively long hours and lower taxes, which could be one of those things that facilitates this. It's super weird. Finally, and perhaps most discordantly, given the Broligarch's current gender politics, you've said Broligarchs like 5-6 times in this. I'm thinking you're just wanting to make Broligarchs happen. And the culture is gender fluid. Anyone can change gender just by thinking about it, and most people do at least once in their lives. The State of Affairs Banks argues is responsible for its strict regime of gender equality. Meanwhile, Musk is notoriously anti-trans. Zuckerberg has been leaning into the retrograde gender ideologies of the manosphere as he tweaks Meta's policies to allow more hate speech, particularly towards LGBTQ plus people, and Amazon has removed LGBTQ plus rights support from its website. But it's not just the culture, or it's not just that the culture holds the inverse of the ideology these men stand for. The most detestable villain in Banks' series is Joyler Veppers, a wealthy man in a civilization less evolved in the culture. There's a bunch of loaded phraseology in there, but we'll move on. Who uses his riches to purchase and influence media outlets, undercut labor unions, and SA his indentured servants. Veppers' money comes from a family fortune built in the computer game industry, and he compounds that fortune by investing in the servers to a series of virtual reality hellscapes where unfortunates are horribly tortured for all eternity. I have no mouth, and I must scream, and yet I'm a broligarch. If you want to know how Banks views capitalist tech billionaires, you don't have to hunt very hard. In the Culture series, capitalist tech billionaire is the literal devil, only he couldn't be bothered to build hell himself. So what's the appeal of the Culture series if you actually are a capitalist tech billionaire? Probably the tech itself. If politics offer the culture books their intellectual framing, the tech is what gives them their zing, their spectacle. Throughout the series, Banks lovingly describes spaceships and AIs, and lots of spaceships that are also AIs, and artificial planets and gizmos and gadgets. Generally, at the end of the book, the culture uses one of the gizmos in an inventive way to win a big explosive space war. Read through this light, the culture's technological prowess offers the brute force that backs up its warm and fuzzy ideology. The culture can afford to be idealistic and worry about its moral culpability because it has better technology than all the other civilizations it faces off with, which means it will nearly always win the fight. If you think of yourself as a titan of industry who is making that technology for your own culture, who is providing the brute force that allows for wishy-washy moralizing, there is a certain easy comfort that comes with this alignment. You know you are on the correct side of history because you're on the side that is building the strongest and most advanced technology. Yet within the larger metaphor Banks is building, the relationship between politics and strength is supposed to be the other way around. The culture is not good because they are strong. Their strength is a metaphor for their goodness. They have the best technology because that shows that they are rational, that they value intelligence, that they are motivated to give their citizens the best quality of life. To avoid this idea when reading Banks, you would have to be exquisitely attuned to the pleasurable spectacle of technology and the power that tech offers its users, and then ignore everything else. This is the idea that, yeah, exactly, ATS. It's just like I don't have another word. I understand that the word is problematic. I will use the term civilization, but I use it in the context of usually providing the caveat to go along with it, right? Like, it's, like, it's the, and this comes up a lot when we talk about different words as they relate to artificial intelligence, is like maybe understanding is not the right word for what the AIs do. Maybe learning, maybe intelligence, maybe all these words are not the correct word to use. They're just the ones that exist within our lexicon to discuss things that are shaped like this, right? And in order to be understood, I have to communicate in words that when I say them, other people understand that I'm referring to something that's shaped like this, right? And that's part of the problem. We could use different words, but are those words going to be descriptive of what we're talking about? Make sense? What up, Razo? Term I use is greed as a motivator. Greed money is antithetical to world peace, merely leads to conflict. Well, money is a static object that exists as, like that. But the greed, yes, right? Greed automatically places you in conflict and opposition with other people. 100%. Because you're playing the game to win more. In that case, what the Broligarchs' love of the Culture series reveals is that they see the world through the lens of power and spectacle first and foremost. Yeah, aesthetic. This is the idea of aesthetic as a thing. And have no particular problem evading the world's deeper meaning. AI folks are not exactly educated on the deepest depths of intersectional aligned thought. Going to come up when that space is led right now by Fesh. It's just in the air. True. Right? Like, and that's, but this is not like a new thing, right? The entire idea behind, like, for instance, Marxist thought, right? Like, is that, and what Lenin said, right? The capitalist will sell you the rope that you use to hang them, or something to that effect, right? Like, that is describing the idea that the capitalists build the systems of production that the proletariat seizes, in order to seize the means of production, right? Like, that's what that is. So this has always been the case, right? Now, fashion is like, exists at a particular place in time on the continuum, but certain behaviors that are indicative of that type of descriptor are things that have existed, like, going all the way back, Ever since one person started telling a bunch of other people why they should give them a portion of their stuff in order to do something, right? That creates a timeline that eventually gets us to the point where we have Elon Musk. And it's just, how do we get the advantages that are created by all the tools, right? How do we seize those means of production? And this is just the next stage. Artificial intelligence. Fully automated luxury communism. Highly recommended. Bloop, 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 bloop. That's why this group has a propensity for big, pointless stunts like trips to almost space and carting a kitchen sink through Twitter headquarters and threatening to punch one another in a public fight. Now, that would have been funny. Like, say what you want, but that would have been funny. Zuckerberg versus Musk in the octagon. Because you can't. Like, that's not the way that the broad moves of history work. Right? Certain things have to play themselves out. At least this is what they tell me, according to the theory. Like, maybe way back when the first person said, hey, give me a bunch of your stuff, if that person had got hit in the head with a rock and dumped in the river, then we would be on an entirely different timeline, right? But that's not what happened. It's as though they feel entitled to the power because their favorite book taught them that the side with the best tech always wins, and the most important thing you can do with that tech is put on a show. They seem not to have read deeply enough to understand what the book is really trying to say. That the most important thing powerful people can do is use the power to make the world freer, fairer, and more pleasurable for everyone else. So yeah, like I don't. I agree with what they're saying. I think that there's some like performative aspects to this article. But generally speaking, I think that's it. They are invested in the aesthetic, right? An investment in the aesthetic is inevitably going to lead you to outcomes that are, questionable, right? Like it's one of the things that people talk about when they talk about the fashion and whatnot is, and just, gestures broadly at the behaviors of the current administration, where instead of people actually doing the actual things that actually help people, you have people who are doing the things. Oh my God, why are you watching him? I'm going to raid out. I just saw something that offends me in my soul. I'll be back at 5 p.m. Eastern to offend portions of your soul. In the meantime, drink your water, eat some food, take your meds if you've forgotten. Always remember that Chaga loves you, and so do I.